Graham's doing the third person,
Enthusiastic.
not the
Yes.
handout one.
Hashtag Desert
Brent
Bus
supports
on
Graham's
Twitter.
choice.
Please, 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 please. This
Okay.
one really wants that to happen.
So
Hallie thinks
before we
that's a
do the
great
CERN
idea.
auction, Graham will tell you about the time that Graham and Morgan went to the hospital.
Oh man, Morgan is excited and also unexcited by this story.
Is this that one's secret?
No, this isn't a secret. This was, I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
So, there's a thing at our school called the Grad Cruise, where they take one of the smaller BC ferries and rent it out, take it out on the water for a couple hours, and they put like games all over the car deck, and there's like a karaoke in the forward cabin, and there's kind of uninteresting stuff in the cafeteria that's free. It's like $100 ticket or whatever.
Mellow yellow.
And Morgan had just been on his grad cruise, because a couple of these guys are a year ahead of me. Morgan had just been on his grad cruise. Sorry, I'll duck so you can leave the overlay on. And on the deck in the grad cruise was a bouncy castle obstacle course.
Yes.
Oh no.
There's like you like go up and over and through a thing, and then
It started out with two huge logs, blow-up logs that you had to dive through that were pushed together, then a miniature pyramid, then like a blow-up ball pit, and then something else, and then a giant pyramid.
Yeah. So, Morgan had that was Graham not talking in first person or third person. But when I say I can say he anyway. So he'd been on his grad cruise and had been doing this thing against Bill.
Yes.
And the thing is, you go down the last pyramid, and then there's a section of inflatable stuff.
Yeah, there's a landing area
to break your fall, and then there's the metal car deck.
Yeah, the steel deck.
And Morgan tumbled down, hit the inflatable part.
No, I launched right
Bounced.
past.
Oh, I thought you
Morgan
bounced.
launched right past it.
Oh.
Morgan and
Graham
Bill.
thought Morgan bounced.
No, Morgan and Bill were in a heated race. We both. Everyone else was trying to climb through the first obstacle, but both Bill and Morgan had the same idea, which was to start a few feet back, take a running start, and just use momentum to leap through it. Then Bill stepped over the first obstacle, while Morgan jumped over it. Then we both just ran through the rest of the obstacles, and we were at the final pyramid, and Morgan was slightly ahead, so we started climbing it as quickly as he could, which is what you're supposed to do. And Bill grabbed Morgan and threw him to the ground violently, which turned into just basically us throwing each other back off of this thing rather than just trying to win ourselves. And finally, Morgan realized this is going to go on indefinitely unless something is done. So Morgan threw Bill with all of his might back as far as he could, and then just leapt, grabbed the top of the pyramid, and launched as hard as he could, and went sailing through the air gracefully and majestically, just my angle changing ever so slightly, launched right past the landing, and landed on the back of my head.
On the metal car deck.
On the steel car deck.
Yikes.
So Morgan comes to school the next day and tells Graham about this, and Graham is like, "Whoa, that sounds bad. What, like," and Morgan remembers this now, but Morgan didn't remember this very well at the time, which is a problem. And Graham was like, "Gee, Morgan, you might have a concussion." And Morgan was like, "Derp, derp, 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 derp." So Graham went, "All right, let's go to the hospital, which is just up the road from the high school.
Yes.
Just to get you taken a look at."
Yeah.
So we go in there, and Morgan is having trouble answering some of the person's questions for two reasons. One, because of the injury.
Yes, Morgan
Two,
was somewhat concussed still the next day.
Yes. Two, his mouth was full of cake donuts. So Graham answered most of his questions.
As it should be, I mean.
As happens.
As happens. And so then they take us into the waiting room B or whatever, and we're the only people in there. Brief side note. This is the waiting room where they take kids, and when kids hurt themselves, they have the kids draw in crayon like how they hurt themselves, and so this waiting room is covered in like little 8.5 by 11 descriptions of how and like don't do this, and you know like don't try and run down the stairs 2 at a time, done by like some 5-year-old with like an arm with like a sad face because he broke his arm or something. There was honestly one that said, "Don't smoke meth, it kills you." clearly from someone outside the age range of the crayons.
Or a
There was-
very forward-thinking child.
True. There was also one that said, "Don't punch walls. Sometimes they punch back." Signed, Bill's mom. Which is, yes, Bill's mom. Because Bill had broken his wrist by hitting a wall. And we didn't know that was in there. We were like, "Is that Bill? Is this where he come when he broke his wrist?" Oh, and we were having a great laugh about that. But the thing is, this was middle of the day. We were the only, Morgan and Graham were the only people in there. And so the nurse comes in and says, "Morgan." Morgan's like, "Yeah." And then she looks at me and looks at her thing and is like, "And who are you?" And Graham says, "I'm with him." And she says, "Oh, you're with him? Okay, well you can come in too." And I'm like, or Graham is like, "Oh, okay." And so we go inside, and she has Morgan like take his shirt off, and she's checking him or something. And Graham is like, "I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. This is odd." And he gets checked out. Turns out he did have a mild concussion, but there wasn't a huge amount they could do for him at the time. And we're walking back to the school, and we're sort of like doop-a-doop-a-doo. Oh, they thought we were a gay couple.
Which was like the third time in 3 weeks at that point.
Yeah. So we didn't. That's why we don't go to hospitals together anymore.
Wow. Didn't that happen to you and Jeremy a while ago when you were meeting for coffee or something, and the waitress
Yeah.
was like, "Do you want one check or two?"
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing an over-under on those odds.